Hi, Fatima.
Hey, hey, Danny, how are you? I'm so
Hi,
sorry
Assalamu
for
alaikum.
all
How
of
are
this.
you? Don't
Walaikum
worry, no
salam.
problem. These things happen. They happen all the time.
Okay, well, it was really something. Anyhow, I'm so sorry for all of this, Danny. I'm so glad to have you here. I wanted to have this little session, but this is
Okay.
getting a bit delayed. Anyhow, so
Yeah.
we have a few people right here as well. I think we can see that. And this is also going live.
Okay.
I'm like really excited and happy today, Dani, because
Okay.
personally, yeah. You want to say something, Dani?
Okay. It's
Is
a
there a
great.
lag in my voice?
No, I don't think so. I think it's your computer.
Okay, let me just.
Um,
Right.
mine seemed okay. Let me just. No, it's fine.
It's fine. Okay, everyone, I'm going to introduce you to
Yeah.
our guest. First of all, I'm going to tell that I'm the Senior Vice Chairperson, Read Pakistan. And well, Dani is here with us. I am super excited, Dani, for this session, especially because you are here. Not one reason to it. Now, as the interview is going to go on, and we'll have your answers and feedback on the questions that we have for us, I think it's going to be really wonderful. Everybody is going to love it. I am sure about that. So, for the people who don't know Dani, let me introduce you a bit to my guest, my really special guest. And Dani Amira Mandi has worked on ELT, that's English language teaching, everybody. So, people who don't know, she's been in this industry since 1998. That's like a really long tenure. She is currently a trainer, she's a lecturer, a writer, and obviously a consultant as well. So she has delivered a lot of, I'm sure, Dani, that you've told a couple of people. And for people who don't know, she has delivered as a teacher's trainer globally from Singapore, Malaysia, then South Korea, Sri Lanka. And I'm sure that the list goes on, Dani, if I'm not wrong.
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
Great, great then. So, well, first of all, Dani, welcome to Read Pakistan. I am personally grateful to you that you have come here and as in come here, as in be with us on the picture on the screen. This is really
Okay.
amazing. We will definitely learn a lot from you. I've got a couple of questions that a lot of people are interested in, especially the professors and the lecturers who are dealing with this. Not just that, I am, because
Okay.
I'm a linguist myself, I've done my MPhil in linguistics. So this is also my genre, and I would really be interested in the answers that I'll be getting from you. So today, we have a
Okay.
couple of questions lined up for you, Dani. And so starting up with the
Okay.
first, what is the greatest impact of a trainer's teacher, of a teacher's trainer, that can be there in and that can make a difference?
Okay, really good question. I think the most important thing as a trainer is to show your passion when you're teaching. It's without doubt the most important thing, because if you have 20 people in a room or maybe 100 people in a room, how you interact with them will determine whether they're more successful on the course, whether they're engaged and interested in what you're talking about. So I think you've got to have that for your subject is the most important thing, because people will see straight away that maybe you're not that interested. So I always stand up, I'm always moving around, I'm very interactive with the people that I'm training, and that always has a huge effect on them, beneficial.
That's, that's wonderful. I think I completely agree with you because until unless you don't have that right in your body language, I think it's going to be really difficult for
Mm-hmm.
people to actually feel interested in you. Now, the second question,
Yeah.
it's a simpler one, but I want your personal input in this. Why have you
Okay.
been selecting? I mean, why have you been thinking, and why have you really selected this field this genre? And well, you have to give 3 important basic reasons why you chose this, genre for being a professional in this.
Okay. I think English is a global language, so it's quite an important subject. Globally, everybody wants to learn English, so it's quite important for that reason. Secondly, cultural reasons. You get to meet so many cultures, whether you're teaching in-house in your country or whether you're teaching around the world. And socially and culturally together, you learn so much about other people, and I think they would be my 3 top reasons.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's actually very well. This reminds me, no, not that it's in the list of questions that I had in mind, but well, you've
Okay.
been going around in the world and you've been to so many countries.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you actually think that Pakistan is going to fit into the picture? As in, have you had the same response from Pakistani people while you were,
Mm-hmm.
interacting with them, or is it different from the world? I want your special focus on Pakistan in this question.
Okay. I love coming to Pakistan. I've been many times and have visited many different cities: Lahore, Islamabad, Karachi, and I'm always blown away with how passionate the teachers are. They're always so involved in the sessions, which doesn't happen sometimes in some places around the world. They have so many questions they want to ask me as well, and they just get involved because I try and make my sessions very interactive, and they're quite happy to get up and to move around and many different things. So I've always been amazed when I come to Pakistan, not just with the teachers, but with the students in the schools as well, because I've had the opportunity to visit many, many different schools. I think the teachers always say they like the interactive aspect of the sessions because sometimes they feel that that's lacking sometimes in Pakistan. And you can see they're so passionate and they take away so many ideas, and they're always so thankful as well. So yeah, I think the Pakistani teachers that I've trained, and I've probably trained more than 3,000 teachers in Pakistan. They've all been amazing.
That's wonderful. Do you think that in the coming 5 years we have a good prospect of teachers learning a lot? Because this sort of a dilemma is coming into Pakistan. I'm talking about how we know Pakistan, So there's this sort of a dilemma that teachers are not given proper training sessions. So what happens is that at the lag at certain things, and then when you talk of global uniformity or something that can teachers in a different way, then we lag a bit. We don't have the right tools. We have faced problems when it comes to English language, and so on. So the list goes on of problems. What do you think you would say for those teachers who don't have that toolkit with them?
Yeah, no, and the points that you've just raised are exactly the same points that the teachers always say to me when I deliver training in Pakistan. They say we don't often have thorough training, practical sessions. So I think there needs to be a lot more element about practical sessions that instills confidence in the teachers and looks at things in a different way. And I think when you have someone coming from a different country, sharing perspectives, it's such a valuable resource tool because things culturally are done very, very differently. Obviously, I'm a specialist in English language teaching, which is perhaps different in methodology to some subjects because part of it is about engaging our learners, creating that motivation, having an interest, playing that interest with the students. So I definitely think more of a practical element maybe in teacher training would be a really good element in Pakistan.
Yes, I think I would completely agree with you, Dani, on that. Okay, let us move forward a bit in a different way. How about TESOL? Because I saw in your, the profile that you are there practicing as a trainer in TESOL and the implications of TESOL as well. So let's have your input on that, please.
Okay. Well, I think TESOL, especially at the moment, is such a big business, and perhaps more so because of coronavirus, because many people who are at home and not working are actually now maybe doing TESOL courses and delivering training online. As we see globally, the world changed. So maybe there's more TESOL teachers now signing up because they have a lot of free time at home. I think everything is going to change in the next few years because of coronavirus. So with TESOL, I think it will be very similar to schools in general, where we have more blended learning. So rather than just having the traditional classroom setup, there will be maybe half and half, where a lot of courses are delivered online.
I see. So you basically think that TESOL is working more its way, through COVID than as compared to other things, definitely.
I think a lot more people are signing up because it's beneficial to maybe people who are at home and want to just gain some extra skills and knowledge. So they're partaking in TESOL courses. Maybe for university students who are unsure about their career and move and what they want to do. So maybe they might take a TESOL course to expand their CV and to travel and so forth. So it's a really interesting profession to be in.
Dani, I want you to, not because of me, but because of people. We have a lot of people here. By the way, let me just read out, because in the meet that you were talking, I was reading out this comment from DK, and he's written, I got really inspired from the answer of Dani. So this is a compliment, and I wanted you to know about this. I think you can read this as well. Can you?
Can I see? No, I can't. No.
Oh, okay. So, well, the comment was here. So I wanted you to know that there are people who are actively participating in this session and they're writing comments. I've given a suggestion right here that they can actually, if they want to ask any questions, they can ask them from you.
Yeah.
Okay, for people, because there are other people over here as well. So I would just like to say that would you like to explain TESOL a bit? Because not for you or for me, but for people who haven't come from the same genre, then they would like to know what TESOL is about. So how about just giving 2 minutes to the explanation of TESOL so that we get better knowledge?
Okay. So TESOL is teaching English as a second or other language. And actually it's quite complicated because there are many acronyms that we use to talk about English language teaching. So some of you may have heard ELT for English language teaching, maybe TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language, or TESOL, as you were saying, Fatima, teaching English as a second or other language. They're all under the same umbrella. Sometimes there's differences culturally. Some people use TEFL, some use TESOL. And it's about delivering English globally all around the world. And teachers either maybe teaching online or maybe working in private language schools. So that's quite a big part of TEFL and TESOL, teaching English classes, maybe after school in the evenings. Many people taking exams. So I'm sure some of you will have heard of IELTS, one of the most popular English language exams. And often TESOL will also incorporate, if there's students that want to come to the UK and study, then obviously they need to be taking these exams to enter into a British university. So IELTS is probably the most common one. But also just the fact that English is a global language, we see more and more people learning English every year. Sometimes it's for pleasure. Sometimes maybe they have to because of their job. So obviously English in the workplace, many companies around the world have an English only policy. If you think of very big businesses where they only use English, so it means more and more people will need to study perhaps business English. So when we talk about English, it encompasses many other areas. So we've got business English, academic English, and then in some countries, it's almost a requirement to have a certain standard or level of English to be employable. So many students might take Cambridge exams, for example, to show that they are B2 or intermediate level or upper intermediate level. And I think nowadays, with the internet and how much social media in our life, English is used so much on the internet as well. So this will only increase people studying and learning English.
That's true. That's actually true. It's a universal language. It's like a, you know, it's like something which is viral now. So languages are important, but
Yeah.
English language has its really has its way made through everything. So now, so the next question that we have is that what is your opinion is the biggest responsibility of a teacher's trainer? This I want to know personally from you, Dani. What do you think as a teacher's trainer?
Okay, from me. Okay. Okay. I'm sure if you ask other trainers, they may be different in what they say. But I always think the most important thing, again, as we were talking about before, is your passion. It's so important. When people are watching you and partaking in activities, they need to see that you are, you know, 100% engaged in what you're doing. You have a real interest for what you're doing, but also you can really have really good skills talking with people, because obviously you have to explain different things. So your motivation is hugely important. At the end of my training sessions, the majority of the time, everyone says, we can see you love your subject because you're always smiling, you're very energetic about it, very passionate about it. I think when I stopped being passionate about it, then I would stop the training. That passion and motivation is really important, and engaging. So if you're delivering training sessions, you have to be engaging your learners. It's really important.
So you would say motivation, you would say engaging them into something, and that's probably the most, the biggest responsibility of the trainer. I think that is very true. Okay, tell us about now something. Let's bring it down to Read Pakistan, Dani, because I want your special focus on Read Pakistan.
Okay.
All these things are very good because obviously these were things that I had my special interest in. Now I'm going to bring you down to Read Pakistan. So I think everybody over here knows about Read Pakistan. For those who don't, Read Pakistan is working upon establishing interest in reading habits and inculcating the habit of learning and reading in people. This is not just related with children; it's related with everybody from 0 till age whatever. So, you know, this is something that we're not just providing libraries, we're inculcating the habit of reading. So for people who don't know, this is the definition that we would rather go, the motto of Read Pakistan. So keeping that perspective in mind, Dani, tell us about strategies. Strategies how to engage children in reading.
Okay. So we have to have strategies in place, because whether children are reading in their own language or whether they're reading in English, we will always have children who are reluctant readers, who find it difficult to read. Maybe it's very difficult to pick up a book, or they think it's quite boring. So we need to think out of the box and think about strategies we can use to really help them want to open the book and start reading. So we need to think, I always say it's like Captain Hook. Okay, so that hook, as a teacher or a trainer, we have to get that hook into our students to get them really interested in reading. So perhaps sometimes, rather than just opening a book, think about all the different activities we can do before we start reading, so then they become quite interested and motivated to pick up the book. The other thing I think is quite important is many students don't like a typical storybook that's beginning, middle, and end. So we need to think about different genres and different styles that pupils can read. So often fiction is really good good for maybe students that don't like a story at the beginning, middle, and end. So don't always write storybooks being the only thing for reading. Actually, if we're getting our students reading, anything they're reading is going to be beneficial.
That's
Before they start reading, I think we need to, sorry, go on. Think about maybe using lots of visuals.
I don't want to lose all of this. So please kindly bring the camera a bit
Okay,
nearer
that's fine.
to you. The camera.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Just bring the camera a bit closer to you. In fact, I'm getting comments here that they can't hear you properly. So is it possible if you bring the camera a little towards yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll see if that's okay. Do you want me to repeat that?
I think just a bit from the back. It will be great.
Okay. Right. So if you can hear me, the most important thing is about getting a hook to really get the students interested, because so many students don't enjoy reading and they may say it's boring or something. So we need to think about ways to motivate them. So we can do that by thinking about different genres of reading rather than maybe just a storybook all of the time. So think about maybe using non-fiction, because that could be much more appealing to some students than having a book with a beginning, middle, and end. So that's one idea that you can use. And actually think about reading. Any reading is positive. So it doesn't have to just always be the whole book. We can take elements out. Another thing is personalization. So what do your students really enjoy and what motivates them? This is difficult if you have a class of 30 students who are all very different, but we need to think about what really interests them and try and bring that into reading elements within the classroom. And obviously learning styles. Every student will learn in different ways. So some are kinesthetic and tactile, or some quite visual. So if we can bring some of these strategies into reading, especially for pre-reading tasks, then that can be really beneficial. So lots of visuals that you can use to engage and motivate children before they start reading can be really, really useful. So think about what they enjoy, what they like, how you can use that in your lesson. And even very basic things like the title of a book. So if you're a school teacher, maybe you're limited in what choice you have of books within the classroom. So think about games that you can play before you start the reading process to help reluctant readers so that they're more in the mindset to read when you start the task. So even just thinking about the title of a book, use it as a game, get them to predict, come up with different ideas. Most children's books will have lots and lots of pictures on the front. So use that as a tool to get them talking, to share ideas, because when they're doing this, they're focusing on the book and the subject, but maybe not consciously so much. So when they start reading, if they are a bit reluctant, it creates that safe learning environment because you've done some work previously. They've understood some vocabulary. They know something about the book. So maybe the reluctant readers are less fearful picking up a book and reading it.
That's wonderful.
The other thing,
I think we have ZK online, and ZK, that actually sort of answers your question as well. That how, so in the middle, ZK asked the question that how we develop reading habits in children and otherwise. So basically, this is the kind of thing that probably he was looking for. But Dani, I would like you to also put emphasis on how to develop reading habits in adults. Not just children, but also in adults.
Okay.
So, and then you have Asad.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you answer this question when we'll take more.
Okay. Okay. So reading habits, as you said, are so important. And I think we need to start them from a very, very young age. So we have that routine where we always read. So I have 3 children and I've read with all of them every single night because they know that it's nearly bedtime, read, and there's that expectation of reading. This is important for younger learners. So when they go to kindergarten and they go to school, they already know the feel and the touch of the book. They're used to it. And with adults and maybe teenagers, it's more difficult. And I would go back to the point that I said before. It's got to be about personalization. What do adults or maybe younger adults enjoy that will help them to read? If you're not interested in a subject, it's very difficult to read about it. So really tap into, even if it's something like they have like fishing, then find reading related to that topic, because you're creating that engagement as much as possible. And I think maybe sell the benefits of reading. When you're older, it's something great to do to relax. When you're young, it's amazing for your grammar, for your vocabulary, to recognize things like punctuation, maybe. So if you're a regular reader, your vocabulary generally will increase massively. So you become a more confident speaker. Your writing will be better. So it really encompasses all of the skills. And with adults, it can be difficult because I think nowadays many people rely on internet and social media. So there's not as much reading. Some adults prefer maybe ebook rather than a traditional book. Again, take into account learning styles. So some people would prefer to listen to a book. So you could combine it to try and create more of an interest. So maybe listen to something first, so you're a bit more familiar, and then read through. So I think we're lucky nowadays that we have so much exposure to so many different types of reading. So we just need to choose what's best for us as individuals, what will keep us interested, and really think about personalization at every stage. I think that really does help.
Yes, it does. We have Asad Farooq who's asking how to turn social media addict children to book readers. Now you have to give at least 2 to 3 tips how to turn. This is actually really a big issue all over the world. How to turn social media addict children to book readers.
Okay, really important question, Asad. And I can speak as my role of a mother with children who are more addicted to computers. Just try and make that time all the time to read. So I've incorporated it into our day. So yes, they can have some time where they're on a computer game or something, but we have set routines where during lockdown, I've become mum and teacher. So they've had to read in the morning and then they've had to read in the afternoon. Think about maybe shorter sessions sometimes for reading. Because if you ask them to read for an hour, that's quite a long time. So I would keep the pace quite. So maybe do 10 minutes of intensive reading, stop and do something different, then come back and do some reading, especially for the reluctant readers. Because if you say read for 2 hours, they're not going to do it. They'll be thinking and daydreaming about something else. So in short, sharp stages. And I think that would be much better. And try and give a lot of praise as well, because if they don't like reading, it is difficult. But the more you can give a lot of praise and talk about the benefits of reading, and perhaps give some incentives. With my son, I used to give him £5 for every book that he read. And suddenly he became very interested in reading. So I'm not saying we have to give them money, but think about incentives. It could be some candy or something that your extra time. So you can only use your computer for maybe 10 minutes if you read 2 chapters of a book, for example.
That's just simply great. Okay, so we have Yusra, and she is saying that I need to enhance reading for my 1.8 boy, which is like probably 1 year, 8 months boy. So she wants to enhance reading for.
Okay. I think you're really lucky actually, because if you want to enhance reading, you've picked the perfect age, because 1.5, if you can really set them on a good reading level at this age, they will be brilliant readers later on. Think about things that are very tactile and kinesthetic. So I'm sure in Pakistan you have similar books to we have here in the UK. We have even books that the children can put in the bath. So you can use it as a reading tool in the bath. It's plastic, it's waterproof, but the idea is the same. There's pictures, there's words, they're turning the pages, they can play with it and get the feel of the book. So I think at this age, really get them used to the feel and idea of the book in different ways. So maybe if you're using pushchair, have a book that you can have on the pushchair, so they're always kind of looking at different books. A play area in your home where there's just some books that they can touch and look at. They can do it on their own and with you, and make a comfortable area, like a reading area. So in my house, I don't have a big house. We have quite a small house, but I have a small reading area with all of my daughter's books and some bean bags on the floor. And let's go and sit down and relax together. She picks up a book, she chooses it herself, and we sit and read, because it's a very informal setting. It's very relaxing and quite different from a classroom situation. I think for a child who's very, very young, take advantage of books that are made of different materials, get them touching it as much as possible, repeat it constantly, and use the visuals as much as possible, because storytelling is brilliant with younger children.
Yes, yes. A little technical question I have there, Donnie, for you. So this is Shivram
Okay.
asking, what is the best or reliable method of training need assessment?
Training and assessment.
Yes, training need assessment.
Okay.
Herself,
that's quite an open-ended question, because sometimes I think it depends on where you're teaching and the school. So sometimes you will have assessment that's in place for you, and sometimes you're quite limited. It can be difficult. I think sometimes maybe use the CEFR, so the Common European Framework, because it's used globally. At each level, there will be can-do statements of what children or teenagers or students of a particular level can and can't do. And it's very, very easy to follow and navigate through. So that can be useful, and it can be something you can have in your class on your wall. So you're always pointing attention to it, and maybe something you can give the students as well, so they can see what they can do and what they can't do at particular level. But again, every school is different. Some schools will have in-house assessments that they use. So yeah, that's quite an open-ended question.
Okay, so we have again I think, who is this, let me read the name. Afia is asking the same question, that social media is making people addict, but they're not much attracted toward books as social media. So what should we do? Well, Afia, I think that question's been really taken care of now. Some other things. Okay, Mateen Meher is asking, how can we promote book reading? Mateen, you need to clarify whether it is just for children or for elder people, or for, which age group do you want to focus upon? So we'll take the next question and we'll come back, to you, Mateen.
Okay.
ZK is again sending you a compliment, writing, brilliant, Dani, you got my point. How we develop.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad.
So that was ZK's question, and now he's saying, brilliant, Dani, you got my point. Okay. Now, okay, so we have another one. My 4-year-old boy got scared from, this is Balti Bites. Okay, so Balti is saying, my 4-year-old boy got scared from going to space after reading a story. This is interesting, related to astronauts. How can we stop this type of effect? This is really interesting.
Okay, really, really interesting question. And I must say, as a mother, I've been there many a times. My middle son was scared of the Gruffalo, if you know that book. And he had nightmares about that for a long time. I think sometimes what you need to do when you're telling the story, think about your own body language and gestures when you're telling the story to kind of lessen any fears. So when my son didn't like the Gruffalo, I started reading it more, but I made it quite interesting and we made it funny. And I was lying to try and make that he wasn't scared, because some of these books are quite important, especially things like space, because that's a big school topic and kindergarten topic as well. So just think about how you're telling the story. Think about maybe the intonation in your voice and how you're using your voice, because how you're telling the story will have a big impact on your child. And again, maybe look at all the different pictures and talk about all the positive things that he likes within the book to bring the fear factor out a little bit. But yeah, this is very, very commonplace with much younger learners, especially at 4 years old.
Sweet. Okay, we have a question from Rose Azmi. So Rose thinks that maybe I'm going out of point, but I wanna ask that to you, Donnie. Well, okay. Think that English language will lose its importance till 2050. Well, this is something. So basically, Rose is thinking that English language is going to till 2050, and he wants your input on the same.
Okay. Whew. It's a difficult question because we live in such an evolving world where things change very, very quickly. But actually, on a lot of the TESOL courses I deliver, we have sections on English as a global language. And actually, it seems to be doing the opposite. It seems to be getting bigger and bigger because of the internet and social media more than anything, and business. So I think 2050 is probably a little bit too premature to show any massive changes. Maybe in the future, further than 2050. Who knows? It might change. Some people say maybe Chinese will be the next global language. But I think at the moment, then English will kind of stay as it is.
Well, okay, Maros, another thing, maybe that's your perspective, but I think if you want to come up with this idea, then also you need to share some research papers, people who are stating and actually trying to prove this viewpoint. For that, Maros, you will have to actually give some, substantive, sort of argumentation, which is, relevant in the market. So we would have to go for that, Maros, as well. But I'm sorry, Dani, I have to take all these questions and put it forward to you because I don't want to miss out on any questions. And so you understand. Okay. Okay. So that's about it. I think Yusra asked this question that I need to change my boy's habit of holding a mobile to holding a book. Now, this is interesting because the body language is getting involved in this.
Yeah. Oh, that's difficult. I'm quite strict at home as a mum, and we have times when they can use the phone and times when they can't. So again, it's about routine that we spoke about before. Let the children know that it's expected that they have to go and pick up a book and put the phone down. So have different times in the day where they can leave the phone. It has to go in the drawer and be put away. But think about the environment that you're creating again for reading. Make sure it's a welcoming environment, it's engaging. Think about books they really, really enjoy to make it a more pleasant experience for them, rather than them just saying, I don't want to read, I want my phone. So I think sometimes we need to think a bit more about how we're getting them to read. Maybe not just sat down at a making it quite informal, but we need that structure as well. So sometimes the phones just need to be taken away and we integrate maybe almost like a timetable at home where it's only for reading and then some time on the phone. It's about a balance, because I think social media and phones and everything are such a big part of society nowadays, but actually it's about how we deal with it at home how it will influence the children.
That's so true. The balance is the best thing right nowadays, because we don't have that kind of balance with us. We need it desperately. Okay, so we have a few comments from people. Afia is saying, "Thank you, Dani ma'am. I've got my answer." And then we have ZK, saying something to me, and then probably ZK, you got the answer. Then we have Umar Tariq, and he's saying, how we can promote reading, book reading. So these kindly give just 2 or 3 simple, simple points that we can follow, and for promoting book reading in general as a society.
Okay, so again, I think we need to think about all the different types of things that we can read and make sure there's always that huge selection, and think about personalizing it again to the maybe personality of the people who are reading. What things do they enjoy, the same as before? So it's looking at things that will engage them and things that will keep them interested. So it's things like that will really keep them motivated as much as possible. And maybe start to promote things like book reviews, for example. So people sharing ideas together. So if somebody reads a book, they can say what they liked and what they didn't like about it. And that might encourage the next person to read or not read, and so forth. So we have a lot of book sharing here in the UK. So when I read a book, I always give it to some of my friends. And when they finish with their book, they pass it to me. So we talk about different ideas, and then we to each other to really help keep reading and keep focused on different books. And I think nowadays, with the use of the internet, it's very easy to see which books are kind of maybe the best sellers at the moment. You can go on and find an author you particularly like. There's so much information that actually could be positive using the internet to get us to read more, and to look at maybe the best books of 2020, for example.
Yeah, okay. Dani, you're cutting there's a bit. Now I think it's fine. Yeah. Okay. So, this is great, Dani, because as a person, you're right that we need to exchange and we need to move the books in circles so that we can use them. Balti Bites is saying, "Thanks for the answer, Dani." That's for you. And Asad Farouk is also saying the same. "Thanks, Dani, for answering." ZK is saying, I am really enjoying the session." You missed on ZK. Okay. And Farooq Dal, our chairperson is also here. He's saying going great. Yeah, we feel the same way, Dal Sab.
Okay.
Okay, so now we have Shahabuddin here. He says, Shahabuddin is saying, shall emphasize be more over storytelling or self-reading for children. Okay, this is interesting. He says we should be focusing on storytelling, or we should just self-read to the children. Yeah.
Okay, really good question. I think you have to think about the power of storytelling. Storytelling can be an amazing tool if you're all talking together in the classroom. Think about things just like how you use your voice and your body language and the actions that can really help the children be engaged. And I think often we need to do a lot of storytelling and reading together before we can do self-reading, because actually maybe they're reluctant to read, they don't want to read. So the more that we can be positive with great storytelling sessions, maybe you focus on the visuals, you focus on noises and sounds, maybe you dress up according to the topic of the book and make it interesting and engaging to give them the love for reading. I think then any self-reading sessions will be much more accessible and more motivating. So everything is about motivation and engagement. We've got to really help learners, because many don't enjoy reading or they might find it difficult. So how we present reading in the classroom will determine whether we have a class of readers or maybe a class of non-readers.
Oh, that is such a That is such a great tool. Shahab, so you have got your answer. You will be involved in, your body would be involved. You would be interactive. You would be telling a story. You can dress up like one. You can make faces and, be liked or disliked. And then you can, sort of let people read or turn them into non-readers. So thanks for that, Dani. Now we have another thing coming up. Okay, so who else is asking? Let me just read out. Okay, Sabahat Latif, is it okay if we read books through summary on or on YouTube or Google reviews and stuff like that? So basically, she wants to know that do we need to go through a proper book? Should we be going through a proper book, a proper, sort of a? I think I would just say a proper book. She's actually referring to book,
A whole book.
or we can just go through a summary or a YouTube or a Google review, and that would be enough.
Okay, I think it really depends on what you want your students to do with that information, because in some subjects they need to read the whole book in its entirety. So if you're using Google reviews or summaries, really think about how you're going to use it and what is the learning objective for it and how is it going to be useful for your learners. And again, pick things out that are really interesting. And think about how you could use visuals with it to make it more suitable for different learning styles. So I think sometimes it's good to get students into the habit of reading a whole book and try and encourage more extensive reading. But actually, any reading is better than no reading. So if we are using summaries and other forms, as long as they're being exposed to some reading, then that's always going to be positive.
Wow, that's wonderful. Okay, I've got this one comment from Alim Bori. He's saying, great session. Bilal Asif
Okay.
is saying the same. He's saying, great session. It's my favorite live session. I really enjoyed. And thanks, ma'am Dani, for answering. All these compliments are coming for you,
No
Dani.
problem.
Shahabuddin says, well said. Thank you so very much. And then we have Shahabuddin again saying a good strategy for promotion of reading among youth is book clubs or book meets. Do we recommend such groups and meets for children?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I don't know how it is in Pakistan, England. We have many after-school clubs, and some of them might be book reading sessions, for example. So I think anything that you can do to encourage children to have a love of reading is positive. Again, think about maybe having an area that's very relaxed where they can come and read, quite an informal session. But yes, absolutely.
Okay, so Umar Tariq is with us. He's saying how to develop children from picking positivity out of books. This is something. Well, Dani, what do you think?
Picking positivity. Okay, so I think it depends on what type of book you're reading, but if you've got books with characters, then you can really focus on character analysis. And that sounds very difficult, but you can do that in a very, very simple way. So think about maybe some characters that have very positive influences, for example, and think about all the adjectives that we could use to maybe describe the positive qualities or characteristics, and build up an idea of each character using keywords, ideas that the students think related to the character in the book. So sometimes with positivity like that, it's about really focusing on characters within the book and expanding on that, especially with vocabulary, to help them really understand and give them a better insight.
That's so true. Another thing, I think, Umar, what you can do is connect them with live characters. We have so many positivity around us and so many positive people.
Yeah.
You can connect them with, the characters in the book as well. Okay, so that's Umar Tariq. That was his answer. Now we have Arshad. What should we be read to children more, fiction or non-fiction?
Okay, brilliant question. I think it depends on the child, actually. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. So I have 3 children. I have 2 boys and a girl, and both of my boys didn't enjoy reading. So for them, non-fiction was perfect. It wasn't a struggle. I could still get them to read and go through the reading process, but they didn't want a fairy tale like Cinderella or Rapunzel, for example. So think about, again, motivating the children and their personal tastes. If you think they would prefer to read non-fiction, that will be much more beneficial for them because it's something they might enjoy and they like facts and figures and numbers and things. Non-fiction can be very beneficial as well because many schools nowadays are using English, not just in English classes, but maybe in geography and history. So non-fiction, if it's an English book being read, can be really useful in other subject areas. A story is brilliant. There are so many different stories you can have at any age and any level. We just need to be checking all the time that they're understanding what they're reading. So if we're giving children a whole story, we need to be looking at what activities do we do before we start reading to them motivated and thinking about the topic. We keep stopping when they're reading to make sure that they're understanding and do some fun games and role plays and activities to think about the topic of the book and vocabulary. I want to finish reading as well, do lots of different activities to make sure that they've understood, because a whole book, how much are they actually reading? So we need to be checking that all the time. So non-fiction or fiction, it will depend on the learning styles and whether maybe they're reluctant readers or not, I would say.
Dani, I'm sure that you are not, I'm sure that you're tired, or it would be great if you're not, because there are a few other questions coming up. I'm going to sort out a few important ones too. Now we have, okay, so fiction. I think, Arshad, your question of fiction or non-fiction is very nicely, replied by Dani. Now, Shahabuddin is asking, what do you consider the best genre for children? We have seen fantasy books as most read by children. Fantasy.
Yeah.
Well, Prince and Princess, I think. Sort of a thing.
Yeah, sometimes. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, because if you have a class of children, every class will be different in what they like and don't like. The beneficial thing is nowadays we have so many different books. So I do a lot of training for Penguin and Ladybird, and you've got fairy tales, traditional stories, fiction, non-fiction. So I think nowadays we're very lucky as teachers and parents that we have so many that we can use. Again, you have to find that hook, like I said at the beginning. What story or what book is going to interest your class the most? So it's a balancing act of personalities as well.
Okay, we have Farooq Dal, who's like the chairman of Read Pakistan, and he is saying, please shed light on importance of bedtime stories, please, and also cultural bedtime stories in UK, Europe.
Okay. Bedtime reading is probably the most important thing that you can do with your children, because it's something great to do with them. It's brilliant for their vocabulary. It's a very special time for a parent and a child. It's excellent for routine as well, because the story takes place before they go to sleep. And it really helps lay the foundation for school, getting them used to the whole idea about reading. So in England, we read very, very early with children. Even when they're babies, we read before they go to bed. My daughter is 4 and I read to her every night. She now chooses the books that she wants to read. And I think because we've done it on a regular basis, what I've noticed is now she doesn't want 1 book, she wants 3 books, 4 books, or 5 books, because she enjoys the time. It's a one-to-one time, so they have their attention from the parents, and she just really enjoys the reading process. So we pick lots of different books. Some might be funny, some might be related to sleep and going to sleep. And because she's starting school in September, I've started to introduce some books that are maybe at a level for her, to get her ready for reading at school. But it's so important. I think in the UK, we would say it's part of the day. So the bedtime reading is part of our everyday structure and routine.
Oh, that's great. We should actually make that as a routine in Pakistan as well. Sabahat Latif is saying, thank you so much, Ma'am Dani. I got my answer. Really amazing session. Good vibes. Okay, and Shahabuddin is also thanking you. Thanks, Doc. Mr. Arshad is thanking you for so much for elaborating it so nicely. His question. Shahabuddin has a question actually. What are some interactive activities you would suggest in making reading more fun? Well, Shahab, I think Dani has answered this question, how we can make it more interactive. And Tayyib Said says, how can we promote others to get information through reading articles? Promote others to get information. Okay, Tayyib, I'm sorry, but I didn't get this question. Dani, if you have made some, sense out of this, then please reply to this question. And then we have Afia Ijaz saying, asking question helps readers monitor their comprehension and stay engaged and interested in their reading. Though that's true, Afia. So, okay, so Tayyib's question is, how can we promote others to get information through reading article? What does this mean, Dani? If you understand, please reply to this question.
I think so. I think maybe his articles. Do you mean like newspaper articles or?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so I think maybe if you're trying to promote reading with other people, sometimes if you have articles, then maybe do a jigsaw reading task where maybe one student reads half the article, the other student reads the other part of the article, and then they discuss their ideas together. So then you're breaking down information, so they're not reading huge long texts. Break it into manageable pieces and use that then as a way to get everybody talking. Sorry?
Group reading. I think Dani, he means to say group reading. Shahabuddin thinks that he is saying, he's asking about how can you influence or motivate others. The strategies, what would you suggest as strategies? So we have Aiden saying the strategies. How would you, what strategies would you suggest for promoting reading? Aiden, okay, please, Dani, answer it. So, well, basically, Dani, we've taken a lot of your time. I'm so sorry, but this session was really going amazing. We have so many people who are, giving input. I'm so glad with everybody here, and I'm so happy. I'm personally going to thank you all for, being with me and Dani and being here in this live session. So thank you very much. Dani, please, last question that we have is that Aiden Hashmi is saying strategies that you would suggest for influencing or motivating people, others.
Okay, I think motivation is hugely important. And obviously we have two types of motivation: intrinsic motivation, which is built into us to do something, and maybe extrinsic motivation that comes from external factors. What we need to be as parents and teachers is really getting our students to have intrinsic motivation. So think about how you're presenting reading in the classroom. Think about maybe at the beginning, use the title of the book to talk about it. Use lots of pictures. Use the back of the book, the blurb, which is a very short summary, to discuss different ideas, so that maybe if they don't enjoy reading or they're unsure of the topic, by doing all of this, by the time you open the book, they're more inclined and more motivated to read because they have some prior knowledge. So something we say quite a lot in English language teaching is activate schemata. And very simply, activate schemata means draw on students' prior knowledge to help get them engaged. So think about the questions that you could ask before you start reading, where it's an inclusive answer because there's no right or wrong answer. You're just asking for prior knowledge. So it's an inclusive activity that gets everybody engaged. and hopefully will really help then with motivating them to read.
I think that solves the whole problem. Well, Dani, I am so grateful to you. I'm sorry that we've taken so much of your time. The session started late, everybody, so sorry for that. But I think it was worth each bit. And seriously, I've loved this session myself. Dani, thank you so very much for your input. This is definitely something really brilliant. Everybody's going to enjoy it because we've recorded this session as well. So we're going to share it later on our page. So this is going to be really brilliant. And this has been a really wonderful time. 1 hour just passed by. I think I've taken more than 1 hour of yours. And I'm so grateful.
Right, not a problem.
Your time. Okay. So by the way, before we go, we have a few comments. Shahabuddin says, "Thank you so very much, Dani, for such enlightening session. Definitely enlightening." And he's saying, "Moderate. It's wonderfully moderated session. Thank you very much, Shahab." Aiden Hashmi says, "Really informative session. Thanks, Ms. Fatma and Ms. Dani." So, well, thank you, Aiden. And then we have Afia. She's saying, "Thank you, Dani, ma'am, for such superb session." So, Dani, I think hats off to you. Thank you so very much for your time. Thank you everybody for your time. We loved it. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. See you then.
Bye.